Hi, welcome. My name's Dale McCluskey, and on this video, I'm going to take a few minutes to discuss the basic formula that this relational system follows when it comes to meeting a dog's relational needs. Now, I'm going to be working off a diagram that's in my book. It's called The Mind and Body Kinetics, and this book, again, really takes you more behind the scenes of the relational approach and helps people to gain insight into what's really at work when it comes to creating meaningful change with dogs. Now I'm going to skip down here in the book to the diagram itself, just to use this as a reference point, help people um, with understanding this, how this system works. Now again, this is a relational approach to dog training. And right here, you'll see how I've laid this out in terms of the sequence, the approach that's used when it comes to creating change. I'll go through some of this just to help people understand. But here, for example, how this approaches training. It approaches training as an intervention, as what it is. It's a relational changing process versus a learning-based exercise. And therefore, when dog owners are already experiencing behavior issues, okay, unwanted behavior issues, it means that there's a current ongoing misalignment, okay, at the relational level. It means a dog is already holding control and power in the relationship through this connection dogs share with us through nature, okay, and through the pack relationship. It's a relational connection. And so what it does is it influences how they think. And so you can look at, say, the laundry list of behavior problems that, that dog owners typically experience, and you can make that connection. You'll see how it affects their decision-making process. Their mind is kind of it's reaching out. Okay, it's wrapping itself around. It's seeking fulfillment that way. And and the issue here too. One of the issues, just understand, is the issue of gaining clarity. And again, I mentioned this down here. Is very difficult because once a dog is gaining power through that owner, what will happen is there's a devaluation issue. It's very difficult for people to understand because the person is not at that current time before this process starts. They're not exposing the cards on the table. Okay, so therefore, dogs find comfort in power. So this is why in the home environment, okay, the dog will look at times very balanced, okay, because they're getting what they want, okay, they're in control. Just understand that. So therefore, at the physical level, you're not going to see typically what you want to see. In fact, the word that people have used with me is, well, Dale, my dog seems bipolar, as though there's a disconnect between what you're seeing in certain part of the picture and these other things that seem almost like on the outside, parameter of the home environment or that owner. And I certainly understand that. But this is where, once you understand this issue with control and, how a dog's mind will settle in, okay, as the dog's gaining control, it will really interfere in the ability to gain perspective, to understand the amount of power the dog's holding. So therefore, what you're looking for is the moments, okay, the interactions, and this is why it's very common for, say at first, for people who start to struggle with, say, the leash walk, for example, out on the street. Well, the dog is trying to gain position. The dog wants to go out in front, or other dogs come out, everything becomes a nightmare because, again, through that connection, through the leash itself, the dog is going to be pushing against that. Any sort of influence coming through that owner that way, the dog isn't going to like it. It's going to start rejecting it and wanting to gain position. So you will actually see, if you identify or if you pay attention, you'll see that there's behavioral clues. Just like in the human world, you'll see clues that, say, with a very selfish, self-centered person, you'll see clues. Well, this person doesn't really care for me. They're just going through the motions. But here, there's clues in the dog relationship that you'll see certain interactions. The dog becomes very possessive of things, say food or toys, and the dog will want to be with certain people and will accept certain individuals, but the motives of the dog are suspect, okay? The dog's motives are oftentimes rotten to the core, all right? But again, just from the picture itself, it's very deceptive because you'll be saying, wow, the dog's accepting this person, that person, the other dog, and even while the dog is actually gaining control in the relationship, okay? It's about really understanding, looking at, well, what are the reasons the dog is, why is the dog accepting? Because again, you have to go back and apply, and this is why I say very clearly, there's no one-offs, okay? So, when you start to see the elevation levels of the dog's mind, okay, start to tip up and beyond the follower, peak up above the follower script, okay, then that's the truth. Everything else is a deception, okay? Everything else is about control and how things appear to be, even though they're not. So just really try to take hold of that information, and that'll help you understand why, in the mainstream dog training world, this is so difficult for people, because emotions get in the way. Emotions are a problem. Emotions need to be reconciled through leadership, okay? It's all about promoting right relationships. So going back up here, again, I show troll training is a intervention, okay? The point of needing professional help, if somebody steps onto the scene, well, right away you have to promote right relationship. You have to begin to, get the person to think different, to connect different with their dog, and then going down the next point here is the method itself, okay, as it comes online. That's what changes will start to impact and lead to unwanted behavior diminishing. Okay, so, but again, we talk about the follower script. You hear me use that term, the follower script. Well, I'm talking about the method, the integrity of the method, how the method goes about creating change in and through that person, and how that translates into changing the perceptions of the dog, okay, over time, as these, again, down here, follower moments begin to take hold, and these moments are moments of influence. Again, I make the distinction between the corrective influence and relational influence. And this is where, people will, this will be really challenging for some people, because this is why I say I don't use commands, okay? Dogs know, believe it or not, they know the intent, okay? And then we get into this issue about what's the motivation that I use? What do I do to motivate the dog to go into these positions? I say be very careful with that, okay? The motivation, understand what I'm working off of here. The motivation is the process itself. It's about what's reasonable. It follows nature's path as defined, what represents strength and weakness. So looking at the type of influence, not corrective, but it's relational influence coming through this script, coming through this, the method itself. So look, it'll set up like little nudges. You'll see the dog's head turning, inward towards the person as these moments take hold. So what happens is the moments themselves, okay, as these moments start to, because they are your building blocks of change, as these moments take hold during the script changing process, okay, as the method starts to come online, the level of that the dog's objectifying will decrease, okay, within the moment itself. And how you can, identify that is the head will start to turn inward. You'll see the elevation levels come down. The dog is not seeking. Okay, the level of separation is going to diminish. Okay, you'll see that through the method. If you pay attention, you'll see that happening. Okay, so, but what the follower moments are doing too is they start to impact the dog's overall decision-making process as they build off each other. Okay, as they start to build, these moments take hold on a daily basis during these interactions that you're doing. They start to impact the dog's overall decision-making process. Okay, it's very, very important to understand that. So you'll see change start to happen. Now, the integrity of the script is very important. You'll see me use the leash, lots of leash work, because it's about connection, how that sets up, how that manifests. Okay, it's really important that this is why I don't follow the mainstream picture that way, because 90% of trainers at some level, whether they come themselves balance trainers or whatever, work off quadrants. They work off this learning-based idea of things, and I talk about that a lot, about why that's can be very problematic for the person in need of help. How that packages up, how that thinking process through that oftentimes will not clean up the motives of the dog. Okay, now again, and this is a problem that's been created through this thing about motivating the dog into going into certain positions through response. Okay, when you just understand, if you're using certain motivating agents, whether it's treats, even praise initially, okay, ball or whatever it is, what you're doing oftentimes is that you're trying right away, right? The thinking is, well, I have to build this picture. I want the dog to go into the respond for that person a certain way, into the sit down, come, whatever. Okay, I need to find a motivator to do it. But you have to understand something. Dogs are relational animals. Okay, the person's already in a deficit. And so the perception of the dog as such is that those motivators that you're using the dog is at a devaluation stage here. And so it's like this what's in it for me thing. It's like bribery, okay? And it's about the personality type of that person, what that represents through that person. And so this is why it's really important to understand when you start working off and incentivizing that way right from the start to build this picture that, again, this is a really hard thing for people because people's thinking has almost been crystallized, right? They can't get out of it to understand what I'm saying here. But it's the same concept going to the human world. If you're dealing with a very selfish person, you're trying to incentivize, get them to do certain things for you, say clean up the house, your child, whatever. Well, you're still working off incentivizing them to do it. You think about the issue about creating parental influence and respect. Well, how's that play into that? Okay, well, it's a exercise in futility if you're not, if the child is not, if not changing the perceptions of how you're perceived, is the same concept of no, is about what's reasonable. No, you're going to clean up the house because you're just going to do it. Okay, and it's the same concept here with dogs. Okay, it's to say no, the dog's just going to go into the position because it's a reasonable request based on the type of influence that I'm using and how it communicates and sets up that way. And what happens is the dog comes into agreement with it. And through the script itself, through the method, okay, how it sets up with the person that's pushing on the dog. When I say pushing, okay, I'm very careful with that. Nowadays, people take any sort of word like that and they immediately try to think, that it means being aggressive with the dog. That's not it at all. Okay, it's about what's reasonable. If you pay attention, you'll see how the influence, how it communicates and sets up. So it's really important to really understand this. It's about what's reasonable, but that's the motivation of the dog, is the dog coming into agreement with the process itself. So again, this is one of the big critical things here, I would say, with this system that really jumps it way ahead of everything else. Okay, there's certain things that might look the same, but there's certain concepts here that will just totally blow everything else out of the water, because this totally is different, but you'll see if you start to do it, you'll see just how effective it is. But you have to get beyond this idea about dogs learning or not understanding because you're doing things differently. No, they understand totally because of how the level of influence, how it's being communicated. Okay, that's a big thing to understand here. So if you're pushing too hard on the dog and too fast, that's not reasonable, and therefore, it's not going to set up the same way. Okay, so really important to get this, but again, you make incredible gains if you really get out of the box of this mainstream thinking and begin to apply this stuff this way. Now, again, coming down here, this is why I say about commands attach. Okay, they do come online, but after a level of relational change has happened. After you speak the language of this, so you are, just understand, you are speaking language here. Okay, but you're speaking it through the script itself, through the method. That's the language you're speaking. It's about what's reasonable. So if you can get this, you're going to make incredible gains here. The commands come online after, say, 3-4 weeks. As you start to assess it, you say, well, the dog is really, you can tell the dog's really going into these positions. It knows, what it's supposed to do. And then you start to say down or come or whatever, and it's going to be solid. Okay, it's not going to be, there isn't going to be a devaluation issue. The motives are going to clean up, and you're going to be well on your way. Now here, going into this idea about learning, okay, we can talk about this a little bit. What does learning represent? Okay, learning really, it's about, I call them relational markers. Say if I'm doing service dog training, Okay, there's a sequence I follow. So the first, part of there's 3 phases typically I do, but the first phase is on relational change. Okay, getting and that creates the level of focus that I need, and then the motives clean up to a certain level, the commands start to attach, and then I get into this type of task specific training. If I want the dog to assist in certain ways with holding an object or whatever that is needed, I need to happen, well, then I can actually say, good boy or whatever, but it takes on different meaning. The motives are cleaned up. Just understand. So I can, and so therefore I will motivate. Okay, I will attach that to build what I need to build. But see, it takes on a whole different meaning because I've already worked through all this. I've cleaned the motives up, and now I'm here, and this is the easy stuff. But the problem here in dog training, in the mainstream dog training, just understand what people are doing. They're taking this whole idea and they're bringing it up here to the very start, and they're actually doing 2 things at once, and they don't even know that they're doing that. And so when things don't clean up, and they're wondering why, well, my dog is great in the training environment, but the wheels are coming off the train in the real world. Well, because the motives haven't cleaned up because you're approaching training for something that's not. You're not seeing that it's actually a relational changing process. So I would really encourage you to really think about what I'm saying. If you can get this, again, you're going to make fantastic change. Okay, you're going to blow other people out of the water. But you have to reject the mainstream here. You have to go and totally approach training differently for what it is. You can follow the sequence. Again, I would encourage you. This is in my book. I'm going to go up here to the top. It's called Mind and Body Kinetics. I go into all this stuff. I would encourage you can check it out. It's available through my website, www.k9pack.com. It's on Amazon Kindle as well. And again, just something to think about. Encourage you to really think about what training is, what sequence you need to follow to experience great results, and and trust me, you'll definitely take the lead when it comes to creating meaningful changes for dogs and their owners. So, thanks for watching.